Hi everyone, so my dissertation title was In Pursuing the American Dream, How Prohibitive is Social Class in Creating Social Mobility, a study of Black American entrepreneurs in hip-hop. So I started with something that I was really interested in, which was music festivals, but the more that I researched I felt that my topic was shifting and changing. So the route that my dissertation topic took and ended up at was looking at musicians starting their own festivals, particularly looking at Odd Future and Jay-Z, then looking at black music culture, and in particular black hip-hop stars and entrepreneurship and success, then looking at the American dream, and for me that was the turning point in which my topic started to solidify. All the other previous research started to click into place, relating it back to the American dream. And then I explored Black American history, opportunity, social mobility and social class. I managed to sustain my interest through the topic just because of how much I was learning. You'd read something and just find it fascinating and it would make you want to research into something more. And I found once I was near completing my dissertation, I actually could have had if I had more time and more words, could have written like maybe another 5,000 words. I really got stuck into it, which was really good because you want to be able to keep an interest in it for as long as you are writing it is a long time. So for me, the research process was not linear at all. And occasionally that did make me quite frustrated, and it just wasn't straightforward like you might expect it to be. I found things overlapped frequently. I'd read something and it would jog my memory as to something I'd previously read. So it makes you go back and look at your other readings already done. And it makes you feel like you're chasing your tail a little bit, but then everything starts to click into place and it just feels really rewarding when you can start to see everything making sense. So that was really good. But for me, I use quite a few different theories in my work, and that's the point of that, is to support arguments and themes. And I found that I used themes kind of more towards the end. It was kind of fitting them into my research rather than finding a theme and finding a theory and researching around that. So for reading for my dissertation, I started with looking at just articles and news stories online and finding something that's kind of on trend and on topic. For me, my research properly started when Paul recommended a book called The Black Culture Industry, and I started to notice reoccurring themes in that book and went to read other books on music industry, and just things like success and opportunity kept popping up, and I knew that for me that was where the research was going to start taking place and start reading from that point. So yeah, that started to then form the structure of my dissertation. So it took a while, but the themes kind of start to present themselves and then you can build up your structure. So when I started to read and research about Black American history, the American dream quickly became really obvious to me that this is what the argument was going to be for my dissertation, and that it would be the main theme that runs throughout this piece of work. So the American dream depicts that America is the land of opportunity and equality, and that everything is achievable and regardless of race and gender. And this was the light bulb moment. I knew that was what I needed to argue, and from my previous readings I already had it all in my mind of, okay, I know I can argue this point and stuff. So it felt great knowing that suddenly it just clicks and it's really good. So each time I read a book or article, I highlighted it and then typed it up, whatever the quote or the idea was from that book. And I started to collect lots of these points and opinions from researching, which then helped me form my key themes and ideas, and then use them to build my chapters. I like to see my work, so I used a lot of mind maps and found that really helped to generate the evidence in the chapters for my work. So the writing process is obviously the big bulk of it. So I spent a lot of time continually researching my key themes and taking notes, as I've just explained. And I found myself piecing together all the information and quotes and opinions that I'd found kind of much like a puzzle, like a really big puzzle. So you'd form kind of large chunks, and then you'd see there's a bit missing and go off and find another bit to piece in to make it whole, essentially. My biggest tip, well, that worked for me, was getting into a really solid routine. So for me, it made it so much more easy and enjoyable by having a study partner. So me and my friend Kin, we decided that, okay, dissertation is upon us. We're going to pair up and motivate each other through the next 6 months of working and writing on this dissertation. So we were really strict. We worked 6 or 7 days a week on dissertation once we got to a certain point, kind of around November, December time. We would go to BU library first thing in the morning, or alternate it, so you'd get to have a lie-in kind of every other day. We never pulled an all-nighter because we would always want to be refreshed and alert for writing. So it's that thing of time management and managing your time, but it really, really helped us. And my other tip is set yourself milestones and goals to work towards. I would often be invited to go out on a Friday night, but if I hadn't met a goal at that point, then I wouldn't go out because I hadn't met my goal. So it is a bit of tough love, but being disciplined with yourself really helps. And if you can get into a good routine, you'll find the workload so much more manageable. With editing, after completing a chapter, I would send it off to a friend to read, and then they'd edit accordingly. And once I deemed my dissertation finished, I gave it 4 or 5 days of editing and fine-tuning. During this time, I was able to change small parts and tweak elements of the structure, and chapter titles, making sure that all the referencing was correct and that sort of stuff. So for the final stage, try to have as many different people proofread your dissertation as possible. I had my boyfriend, my mum and my brother all read mine, and each of them all picked up on different grammatical errors, things that didn't make sense, that sort of stuff. So yeah, have as many people read it as you can. And then I printed my dissertation in the AUB library because we've got printing credits and it just makes it a lot cheaper. And I used a binding company in Lansdowne, and it cost a whopping £3 to have it bound, so really cheap again, but just make sure that you try and leave a couple of days beforehand in to bind it. You don't want to leave it till last minute and then pay nearly £60 at Uniprint or at Staples to have it done. So yeah, that's it, and we'll speak to you a bit later during the question and answer session.